Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. We are very glad to have you here. We have a very bright and intellectual audience here listening to you.
That's really nice. I'm very grateful. I will have to speed up my presentation a bit. I understand you're running a bit late and those things happen, but I cannot stay for longer than what we had originally planned for. So I will get going with my presentation. If I think I will be given the control of that. I don't think that has happened yet.
I think it's okay. It's perfect. Thank you, Josefina. The audience is yours.
Thank you. And can I just check with the controller then that, can I do that now?
Yes,
okay.
Perfect.
So I'm Josefina Lindbom, working at the DG Environment of the European Commission. And I'm going to talk to you about what we are doing in relation to whole life carbon in different kinds of policies in the EU. So if I could have the next slide. There we go. Yes, I don't think I've been given the control yet to go ahead. So, yeah. I don't have the question to take over the control yet. Okay, so, yeah. All right, thank you. So why is whole life carbon important then? It is because if we look at the full life cycle of a building, this sector is responsible for half of all our extracted materials, half of our total energy consumption, and then a third of our water consumption, and actually a third of our generated waste is construction and demolition waste. So all this material that is being used in buildings comes at a carbon cost because we have used a lot of carbon when we are extracting them, producing them, installing them, etc. This is a typical profile of whole life carbon over a building's life cycle. The yellow one or the orange one is the operational carbon. So that is the carbon which is linked to the operation of the building, so use and so heating and cooling, I should say. And this is what typically our focus has been on in policy, but also in different kinds of business models. But we have not really focused much on the embodied carbon, which is the other part of whole life carbon. So embodied carbon is indeed the carbon that is the result of constructing the building and having manufactured the materials and so on. So already before we start using the building, basically. This is the pink part here. And in a typical modern, fairly energy efficient building, it is about half-half overall. And as you see, of course, the huge peak is the so-called upfront carbon, the one which comes at the very beginning of a building's life cycle. And once that is out, there's nothing we can do about it to reduce it. We have studies ongoing, which shows us a bit about how whole life carbon is distributed over different kinds of building elements. And technical services, for example, are a very important part of that. I don't expect you to sort of go into this slide in detail. I just want to show you that these are the kinds of things that we are looking at for different kinds of buildings, offices, multifamily homes, single-family homes, in different parts of Europe. So the oceanic part, the northern part, Mediterranean part, and continental part. For new buildings, this is the case, and for different kinds of standards of buildings. So here we can see a little bit what it looks like for different kinds of buildings, geographies, and elements. There are different kinds of solutions to go into. I would say that sufficiency is the most important one. It is really because the most sustainable building is the one that we don't build. So we need to think about how can we use the square meters that we have in a more efficient way. That does not mean to put people into smaller places, but it means to use the buildings that we have in a more efficient way, because a lot of the buildings that we have are only used for part of the time, part of the day or part of the week or something like that. But also renovation is very important as opposed to demolish and build new. And then it all comes down to use circularity principles, reduce the amount of materials necessary to provide the function, and of course also to use low carbon materials. Skip that one for the sake of, of timing here. The policy development that we have takes sort of two steps into account. The first step is to the require assessment and reporting of whole life carbon, but without working with quantified targets. And this is where we are right now. We do this because we believe that if building projects are obliged to assess and report whole life carbon, it will spread knowledge and understanding of this concept, which is fairly new and not obvious to everyone. It will definitely provide the generation of data, and it will be a soft way of going about to induce whole life carbon. We already have this in different kinds of policy initiatives. Some of them are already in place. Some of them are being negotiated by the different legislators at the EU level. But this is coming. The assessment and reporting will be required. The second step is to work with quantified targets. So actually start to introduce minimum values, or rather maximum values for whole life carbon, so that we are able to push down more substantially the whole life carbon emissions. And that would, and for that reason, we are working now to set up a roadmap or develop a roadmap which includes milestones for carbon neutrality up to 2050. So this roadmap will set out trajectory for a decarbonized building stock, as I said, by 2050. And that in turn, then, once we have that, will underpin future policies and strategies. And having that, it will allow us to start integrating benchmarks or limit values. This roadmap will not be a list of policy recommendations per se, that will come later. It is neither the role of this roadmap to start to harmonize reporting. That is another work stream that we have. But the roadmap as such will set up the trajectory up to 2050. In this work, we will be inspired by frontrunners. There are several member states in the EU who are doing this by themselves, so to say, but of course also different building professional organizations which are taking this very seriously. So we will engage across the EU, or we do so already, as a matter of fact. We will have, this is the process, how we will work. We will set up a group under high-level construction forum, and we will indeed have a stakeholder consultation in spring. So that will be an opportunity for all stakeholders to comment as well. This should be adopted by the end of next year, so it's a busy year ahead of us. But we believe that once we have this, we will be able to really, in a more serious way, push the reduction of whole life carbon in the building sector. Thank you very much.